The patient's heart stopped at 11:47 p.m., and the only person who saw it coming was the nurse they'd been ignoring all night. Emily Harper stood frozen by the crash cart, her hand still hovering over the defibrillator pads, watching the monitor flatline. Around her, the emergency room at Silvergate Memorial Hospital erupted into chaos, doctors shouting, residents scrambling, alarms screaming into the fluorescent buzz of the night shift. But Emily wasn't moving. She was counting the seconds it had taken for someone to finally listen, counting the minutes she'd spent warning them, counting the ways this could have been prevented. 32 minutes ago, she'd told Dr. Nolan Price the Marine's oxygen saturation was dropping. He'd waved her off without looking up from his tablet. 18 minutes ago, she'd checked the man's pupils and found them sluggish. The attending nurse told her to stop fussing. 4 minutes ago, she'd reached for the emergency intubation kit. A resident physically blocked her path. Now the kid was dying. And Emily Harper, quiet, soft-spoken, easy to dismiss, was the only one in that room who knew exactly what was about to happen next. But before we go any further, I need you to do something. Stay with me until the end of this story. Watch what happens when people mistake silence for weakness. And when it's over, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far Emily's story travels. Hit that like button if you're ready to see someone underestimated finally get their moment. Now let's get back to that hospital room. The emergency room at Silvergate Memorial smelled like disinfectant, old coffee, and something metallic that Emily had learned not to think about too hard. It was a Tuesday night, which meant it was busy but not catastrophic, the kind of shift where you could almost convince yourself you'd get a bathroom break. Almost. Emily pushed a medication cart down the hallway, her sneakers squeaking against the linoleum. She'd been on her feet for 9 hours. Her lower back ached. Her left shoulder had that familiar burn from lifting a combative patient earlier. But she kept her face neutral, her movements efficient, because that's what you did. You kept going. Harper, she turned. Dr. Nolan Price stood outside exam room 4, still holding his tablet, still wearing that expression he always wore, like he was being forced to interact with people significantly beneath him. Yes, doctor? The kid in Bay 7? Vitals? Emily pulled out her phone, checking the notes she'd logged 20 minutes ago. Blood pressure's holding at 128/82. Heart rate's elevated, 110, but he said he's anxious. Oxygen sat was 96 when I checked. Was? Price's eyebrow went up. I was going to recheck, but then go recheck. Don't tell me old numbers. He turned away before she could respond. Emily exhaled slowly through her nose and headed toward Bay 7. The patient, a Marine named Kyle Ruiz, 23 years old, admitted 2 hours ago with abdominal pain, was sitting up in bed, scrolling through his phone. He looked young, too young. They all did. Hey, Kyle, just need to check your oxygen levels again, okay? He barely glanced up. Sure. She clipped the pulse oximeter onto his finger and watched the screen. The number flickered. 93, then 91, then 89. Emily's stomach dropped. Kyle, how are you feeling right now? Any trouble breathing? I'm fine. His voice was flat, distracted. Look at me for a second. He did, annoyed. His eyes were glassy, pupils slightly dilated. I'm going to get the doctor. I said I'm fine. Emily was already moving. She found Dr. Price in the break room, pouring what had to be his 5th cup of coffee that shift. He didn't look up when she came in. Dr. Price, Kyle Ruiz's oxygen sat just dropped to 89. His pupils are... Did you reposition him? What? Sometimes they're just slouching. Did you sit him up properly? Emily bit the inside of her cheek. Yes, he's sitting upright. Something's wrong. Price sighed, setting down his cup with exaggerated patience. Harper, the kid came in with stomach pain. Probably food poisoning, maybe appendicitis. We're waiting on labs. His vitals were stable an hour ago. They're not stable now. Then give him a nasal cannula and keep monitoring. If it drops below 88, page me. He picked up his coffee and walked past her. Emily stood there for 5 seconds, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. Then she turned and went back to Bay 7. Kyle was lying down now, one arm thrown over his eyes. Kyle? No response. Kyle! Louder. His arm slid off. His eyes opened halfway. I'm tired. Emily's pulse spiked. She checked the monitor. Oxygen sat 87. She pressed the call button. "I need a doctor in Bay 7. Now." The unit clerk's voice crackled back. "What's the issue?" "Desaturating patient. Get Dr. Price." She turned back to Kyle, tilting his bed up higher, adjusting the nasal cannula flow. His breathing was shallow, too shallow. "Kyle, stay with me. Keep your eyes open." "Why?" His voice was slurred. The curtain snapped open. But it wasn't Dr. Price. It was Jennifer Coates, the charge nurse, a woman with 15 years of experience and a permanent expression of irritation. "What's going on?" "He's dropping. 87% and falling. I think he's—" "Did you suction him?" "He doesn't need suctioning. He needs—" "Harper, you've been here 6 months. Let me handle this." Jennifer moved in, checking the monitor, adjusting the oxygen flow slightly. "He's fine. Probably just anxiety. Some of these guys panic when they're in hospitals. His level of consciousness is decreasing. He's tired. He's been here for hours." Jennifer gave her a look that Emily had seen too many times, half condescension, half pity. "Why don't you go check on the patient in Bay 3? I've got this." Emily opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Jennifer, go." Emily stepped back. Her hands were shaking. She forced them still. She walked out of Bay 7, past the nurse's station, and stood in the hallway, staring at the wall. She could hear the monitor beeping, could hear Jennifer talking to Kyle in that overly calm voice people used when they thought someone was overreacting. Emily counted to 10. Then she turned around and walked back. Jennifer was gone. Kyle was alone. The monitor read 84. "Damn it!" Emily grabbed the bag valve mask from the crash cart and moved to the head of the bed. Kyle's eyes were closed now. His chest was barely moving. Kyle, can you hear me?" Nothing. She tilted his head back, checked his airway, and placed the mask over his face. Squeezed the bag. His chest rose. She squeezed again. "Someone get in here," she shouted. Footsteps. A resident she didn't recognize appeared in the doorway. "What's—" "Page the attending. Now. He's not breathing on his own." The resident's eyes went wide. He ran. Emily kept bagging. 1 squeeze, 2, 3, watching Kyle's chest, watching the monitor. 82%. She increased the oxygen flow to maximum. The curtain flew open. Dr. Price stormed in, Jennifer right behind him. "What the hell are you doing?" Emily didn't stop. "He stopped breathing. I'm bagging him." "Did I tell you to intubate?" "I didn't intubate. I'm maintaining his airway until—" "Step back. Doctor, he needs—" "Step back." Emily's hands stilled. She met his eyes. He wasn't looking at Kyle. He was looking at her. She stepped back. Dr. Price moved in, checked the monitor, checked Kyle's pupils. His jaw tightened. "Get me an intubation tray. Now." Jennifer bolted. Price glanced at Emily, his expression hard. "You should have paged me sooner." Emily's fingernails dug into her palms. "I did." "Not soon enough." The next 10 minutes were a blur. The intubation tray arrived. Dr. Price worked quickly, professionally. Kyle was intubated, sedated, and stabilized. The monitor climbed back up, 88, 91, 94. Emily stood in the corner, her arms crossed, watching. When it was done, Dr. Price stripped off his gloves and turned to her. "My office. Now." Dr. Price's office was small and sterile, with a desk covered in paperwork and a window that looked out onto the parking lot. Emily stood in front of the desk. He didn't offer her a chair. "Do you know what you did wrong tonight?" She said nothing. "You overstepped, multiple times. You created panic. You acted without authorization." "I saved his life." Price's eyes narrowed. "You got lucky, and you made me look incompetent in front of my staff." "You were incompetent." The words came out before she could stop them. The room went very, very quiet. Price leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "Excuse me?" Emily's heart was pounding, but her voice stayed level. "I told you he was crashing, twice. You didn't listen. If I hadn't bagged him, he'd be dead. If you hadn't caused a scene, we could have handled it calmly." "Calmly?" Emily's voice cracked, just slightly. "He wasn't breathing, and now he is. Because I intubated him, not you." Price stood. "You don't get to make those calls, Harper. You're a nurse. You follow orders. You don't question doctors. You sure as hell don't accuse them of incompetence. Even when they are? Price's face went red. You're done. Pack your things. You're fired. Emily stared at him. You're serious? Completely. He opened the door. Security will escort you out. What? 20 minutes later, Emily stood in the rain outside Silvergate Memorial, holding a cardboard box with her stethoscope, a coffee mug, and a framed photo of her sister. Her scrubs were soaked. Her hair stuck to her face. She didn't cry. She just stood there, staring at the sliding glass doors, watching people move inside. Doctors, nurses, patients, all of them safe, all of them alive. Because of her. And she'd been fired for it. A car horn honked. Emily turned. A black SUV with tinted windows rolled to a stop in front of her. The passenger window lowered. A man in a dark suit leaned out. Emily Harper? She frowned. Who's asking? Get in. We need to talk. I'm not getting in a car with a stranger. The man held up a badge. Federal. It's about Kyle Ruiz. Emily's stomach dropped. What about him? Not here. Get in. She hesitated. Then the emergency room doors burst open. Jennifer Coates ran out, her face pale. Emily, wait! Emily turned. What? There's been an incident. We need a sound. Sharp, distant, gunfire. The sliding doors exploded inward in a shower of glass. People screamed, and then the smoke grenades came. Emily dropped the box. Everything inside her went still. She knew that sound, knew the smell of the smoke, knew the pattern of the entry. This wasn't random. The man in the SUV was yelling something, but Emily wasn't listening. She was already moving, low, fast, angling toward the side entrance. Jennifer grabbed her arm. What are you doing? Emily pulled free. Get to your car. Lock the doors. Call 911. You can't go in there. Emily didn't answer. She was already gone. She slipped through the side door, the one staff used for smoke breaks. The hallway was filling with gray smoke. Alarms blared. She could hear shouting, deep voices, controlled, coordinated, military. Emily pressed herself against the wall, breathing slowly, listening. 3 voices, maybe 4. Moving toward the ICU wing, she moved the opposite direction, toward the supply closet. Grabbed a pair of trauma shears from her pocket. She always kept them there. Not much, but better than nothing. A figure emerged from the smoke. Tactical vest. Suppressed rifle. Face covered. He didn't see her. Emily stepped in close, drove the shears into the gap between his vest and his shoulder, and pulled him backward. He hit the ground hard. She ripped the rifle from his hands, checked the chamber, loaded, and kept moving. She didn't think, didn't hesitate. This wasn't her first firefight. Another attacker rounded the corner. Emily dropped to one knee and fired twice, center mass. He went down. She grabbed his radio, clipped it to her waistband, and kept moving. The ICU wing. That's where they were headed. That's where Kyle was. Emily's jaw tightened. Not on my watch. She reached the ICU doors just as 2 more attackers kicked them open. She fired through the gap. 1 shot, 1 down. The second attacker returned fire. Bullets punched through the wall above her head. Emily rolled left, came up behind a medication cart, and fired again. Headshot. Silence. She moved into the ICU. Kyle was still intubated, still sedated, still alive. And standing over him, holding a syringe, was a 5th attacker. He turned. Emily raised the rifle. Step back. He didn't. Last chance. He lunged. Emily fired. He dropped. She moved to Kyle's bedside, checked his vitals. Still stable. The door burst open. Police. Finally. Drop the weapon. Drop it now. Emily set the rifle on the floor, raised her hands. I'm a nurse. I work here. The officer stared at her, at the bodies, at the rifle. What the hell happened? Emily looked at him, her face calm, her voice steady. I did my job. And the next 6 hours were a nightmare of questions. Federal agents, local police, hospital administration. Everyone wanted answers. Emily gave them nothing. Not until her lawyer arrived. And when the truth finally came out, when the federal agents explained that the attackers were hired mercenaries targeting survivors of a classified military unit When they revealed that Kyle Ruiz was one of the last witnesses to a compromised operation, when they showed her the photos of the official who'd orchestrated it all, Emily still didn't flinch. Because she'd known. The moment she heard the gunfire, she'd known. They hadn't come for the hospital, they'd come for him. And they'd come for her. The federal agent leaned forward, his voice low. "We've been looking for you for 2 years, Harper. You disappeared after Syria." "I left." "You ran." Emily met his eyes. "I survived." The agent nodded slowly. "Well, you just survived again." He slid a folder across the table. "We found something on one of the attackers." Emily opened it. A photo. Her photo. Taken 6 years ago, in uniform, standing with her unit. And written across the bottom in red ink, "Target confirmed." Emily's hands didn't shake, but her pulse roared in her ears. They'd found her, and now everyone would know. The agent watched her. "You saved a lot of lives tonight, Harper, including your own." Emily closed the folder. "What happens now?" The agent smiled, but it wasn't comforting. "Now? Now you testify." Emily stared at the agent across the metal table, her fingers resting flat against the cold surface. The fluorescent lights above buzzed faintly, casting harsh shadows across his face. He was waiting for an answer. They always waited. "I'm not testifying." The agent blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." Emily leaned back in her chair. "I'm not getting on a stand and telling a room full of strangers what happened in Syria. I'm not reliving it for a jury. Find another witness." "There is no other witness. They're all dead." The words hit like a punch, but Emily kept her face neutral. She'd learned a long time ago that showing pain only gave people leverage. "Then you don't have a case." The agent's jaw tightened. "Harper, listen to me. The man who ordered the hit on your unit, the same man who sent those mercenaries into this hospital tonight, is walking free right now. He's got money, connections, lawyers. If you don't testify, he disappears, and the next time someone like Kyle Ruiz gets targeted, there won't be anyone there to stop it." Emily said nothing. The agent leaned forward, his voice dropping. "You saved 12 people tonight, patients, staff, Kyle. You think they're just going to forget that? You think you can walk away and pretend this didn't happen? I've done it before. And look where that got you, hiding in a hospital, pretending to be someone you're not." Emily's eyes went cold. "I wasn't pretending. I am a nurse. You were a soldier first. I was a lot of things first." She stood. "Are we done here?" The agent didn't move. "Sit down." "Am I under arrest?" "Not yet." Emily crossed her arms. "Then I'm leaving." She turned toward the door. The agent's voice stopped her. "They'll come for you again." Emily paused, her hand on the doorknob. "Let them." She walked out. But the hallway outside the interrogation room was crowded with people. Federal agents, police officers, hospital staff. They all turned to look at her as she passed. Some of them stared. Some whispered. One of the younger officers nodded, almost respectfully. Emily kept her eyes forward and kept walking. She found the exit, pushed through the door, and stepped into the early morning light. The rain had stopped. The air smelled clean. The parking lot was half empty, just a few cars scattered across the asphalt. Her car was gone. Towed, probably, or impounded. She didn't care. She started walking. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out. Unknown number. She answered. "Yeah." "Miss Harper?" The voice was male, older, with a faint southern accent, calm, almost polite. "Who is this?" "Someone who knows what you did tonight, and someone who wants to make sure you understand the situation you're in." Emily stopped walking. "I'm hanging up." "You killed 4 of my men." Her stomach dropped, but her voice stayed steady. "Good." A pause, then a low chuckle. "You're tougher than I expected. I respect that. But you need to understand something, Miss Harper. Those men were professionals, expensive, hard to replace. And now I have to explain to my employer why the job didn't get done. Not my problem. It will be. See, my employer doesn't like loose ends, and right now you're a very loose end." Emily's hand tightened around the phone. "Tell your employer to come find me himself." "Oh, he will, but not yet. First, we're going to make an example out of you. We're going to show everyone what happens when someone gets in our way. Try it." The line went dead. Emily stood there for a moment, staring at the phone. Then she shoved it back into her pocket and kept walking. Matet. She made it 3 blocks before the exhaustion hit. Her legs felt like concrete. Her shoulder throbbed where she'd slammed into the wall during the fight. Her hands were shaking again, and this time she couldn't stop them. She found a bus stop and sat down on the bench, leaning her head back against the plexiglass. The sun was rising now, casting long orange streaks across the sky. Morning traffic was starting to pick up, cars rushing past, people heading to work, to school, to normal lives. Emily closed her eyes. For just a second, she let herself feel it. The weight, the fear, the bone-deep tiredness that came from spending years running and pretending and trying to be someone else. She was so damn tired. A car pulled up to the curb. Emily opened her eyes. It was the black SUV from earlier. The same federal agent stepped out, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You look like hell," he said. "Thanks." He handed her one of the cups. "Cream, no sugar, that's what your file said." Emily took the coffee but didn't drink it. "You have a file on me?" "We have files on everyone." He sat down next to her. "I'm Agent Marcus Briggs. I've been tracking your unit, or what's left of it, for 3 years." "Congratulations." Briggs ignored the sarcasm. "There were 12 of you in Syria. Specialized reconnaissance, off the books. You were supposed to gather intel on a weapons smuggling operation, but someone tipped off the wrong people. Your team got ambushed. 8 dead, 3 captured, 1 escaped." Emily stared straight ahead. "You read that in a file?" "I read it in a report. The one that got buried. The one that listed your entire unit as casualties to avoid an investigation." Emily's grip tightened on the coffee cup. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because the man who buried that report is the same man who sent those mercenaries tonight, and he's not going to stop. I already told you, I'm not testifying." "I know." Briggs took a sip of his coffee. "That's why I'm offering you something else." Emily finally looked at him. "What?" "Protection. A new identity. A clean slate. We move you somewhere safe, set you up with a new job, new life. You disappear for real this time. In exchange for what?" "Your silence." Emily laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want me to run again?" "I want you to survive." "I survived fine on my own." "Did you?" Briggs gestured toward the hospital in the distance. "You were working night shifts in a second-rate ER, getting yelled at by doctors who didn't know half of what you know. That's not surviving. That's hiding." Emily's jaw tightened. It was quiet until it wasn't. Briggs leaned forward, his voice dropping. "Harper, I'm not the enemy here. I'm trying to help you. But if you don't take this deal, you're on your own. No backup, no protection, and the next time they come for you, you might not be so lucky." Emily set the coffee down on the bench. "I don't need luck." She stood and walked away. Briggs didn't follow. Emily spent the rest of the morning at a diner on the edge of town, sitting in a corner booth with a plate of eggs she didn't eat and a cup of coffee she drained twice. The waitress, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and a kind smile, didn't ask questions, just kept the coffee coming. Emily's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from an unknown number. "Turn on the news." She frowned, pulled out her phone, and opened a news app. The headline hit her like a freight train. "Nurse hero or vigilante? Hospital attack raises questions about use of force." Below it, a photo. Her photo. Taken from her old military ID, grainy and slightly pixelated, but unmistakably her. Emily's stomach turned. She clicked the article. Emily Harper, a 29-year-old registered nurse at Silvergate Memorial Hospital, is being hailed by some as a hero after stopping an armed assault that left 4 attackers dead and multiple lives saved. But others are questioning whether Harper's actions, which included the use of lethal force, were justified, or if she overstepped her authority as a civilian healthcare worker. Harper, who has no prior criminal record, reportedly engaged the attackers with a firearm taken from one of the assailants. Hospital staff describe her as quiet and reserved, with no indication of a violent past. However, sources close to the investigation suggest Harper may have military experience, though details remain unclear. The incident has sparked debate about the role of civilians in active shooter situations and whether Emily stopped reading. Her hands were shaking again. She looked up. The TV mounted above the counter was showing footage of the hospital, police tape, ambulances, reporters crowding the entrance. Then the screen cut to an interview. Dr. Nolan Price. Emily's blood went cold. Price stood in front of the hospital looking tired and concerned, his white coat still on. The reporter held a microphone toward him. Dr. Price, you were inside the hospital during the attack. Can you tell us what happened? Price nodded gravely. It was terrifying. We heard gunshots, saw smoke. Everyone was panicking. I tried to get as many people to safety as I could. And Emily Harper, what can you tell us about her? Price hesitated, just long enough to look reluctant. Emily was a dedicated nurse, but I have to be honest, I had concerns about her judgment. Earlier that night, she made some decisions without consulting me. Decisions that, frankly, put a patient at risk. The reporter leaned in. Are you saying she was reckless? I'm saying she didn't follow protocol. And in a hospital, protocol exists for a reason. Price ran a hand through his hair, looking directly at the camera. I'm grateful no more people were hurt, but I think we need to ask ourselves, if someone is willing to break the rules in one situation, what does that say about their decision-making in another? Emily's vision blurred. The waitress appeared beside her, refilling her coffee. You okay, honey? Emily didn't answer. She was staring at the screen, her heart pounding in her chest. Price was lying. He was rewriting the entire night, making himself the hero, making her the problem. The reporter's voice cut through her thoughts. Dr. Price, some are calling Emily Harper a hero. What do you say to that? Price smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I think we should let the authorities determine what happened. All I know is that I did everything I could to protect my patients. That's my job. The screen cut back to the news anchor. Emily stood up, threw a 20 on the table, and walked out. Well, she didn't have a plan. She just walked. Block after block, her mind racing, her chest tight. She'd saved them, all of them. Kyle, the patients, the staff, even Price, who'd locked himself in his office while people were dying. And now he was on TV, calling her reckless. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. She answered. What? Miss Harper, this is Vanessa Ortiz with Channel 7 News. I'd love to get your side of the story. Emily hung up. Another call. Another reporter. She blocked the number. Another call. She turned off her phone. Her hands were shaking so hard she had to stop walking. She leaned against a brick wall, breathing hard, trying to calm down. She'd spent 6 years running from her past. 6 years trying to be normal, trying to be invisible. And in one night, it was all gone. Her face was on the news. Her name was everywhere. And the people she'd saved were calling her dangerous. A voice behind her. You shouldn't have turned off your phone. Emily spun around. Agent Briggs stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, looking almost apologetic. How did you find me? You're not hard to track. He nodded toward the street. You walked in a straight line for 40 minutes. You're tired, angry, predictable. Emily glared at him. What do you want? To give you one more chance. Briggs pulled out a folder and held it up. This is everything we have on the man who ordered the hit. His name is Victor Stanton, former colonel, now a private contractor with ties to half a dozen governments. He orchestrated the ambush in Syria because your unit stumbled onto something they weren't supposed to see. And when most of you died, he buried the evidence and moved on. Emily's throat tightened. Why are you telling me this? Because Stanton just issued a statement to the press. Briggs opened the folder and handed her a printed article. The headline read, Military contractor denies involvement in hospital attack, calls nurses' actions tragic overreaction. Emily's vision went red. Briggs watched her carefully. He's denying everything, painting you as unstable, a traumatized veteran who snapped under pressure, and people are believing him. Emily crumpled the paper in her fist. He sent them. I know he did. I know he did too, but knowing and proving are two different things. Briggs stepped closer. You want justice? You want people to know the truth? Then you testify. You get on that stand, you tell the jury what happened in Syria, and you make sure Stanton pays for what he did. Emily's voice was hoarse. And if I don't? Then he wins. He walks away clean, and you spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Emily stared at the crumpled paper in her hand, at Stanton's face, smiling in the photo, confident and untouchable. She thought about her unit, about the men and women she'd served with, about the ones who didn't make it home. She thought about Kyle, still lying in that ICU bed, still alive because she'd refused to let him die. She thought about Price, standing in front of those cameras, lying through his teeth. And she thought about Stanton, sitting somewhere safe, watching it all unfold, probably laughing. Emily looked up at Briggs. "When's the trial?" 3 weeks. I'll do it." Briggs nodded slowly. "Good. But there's something you need to know first." Emily's stomach sank. "What?" Stanton's lawyers already filed a motion to have the case dismissed. They're arguing there's no evidence linking him to the attack. No paper trail. No witnesses. Nothing. What about the mercenaries? Dead. All of them. And the one you captured? He lawyered up. Won't talk. Emily's hands clenched into fists. "So we have nothing." "Not nothing." Briggs pulled out his phone and turned it toward her. On the screen was a grainy video, security footage from the hospital. It showed one of the attackers just before Emily took him down. He was talking into a radio. "We pulled the audio," Briggs said. "He mentions a name, just once. But it's there." Emily leaned closer. "Whose name?" Briggs played the clip. Through the static and chaos, a voice crackled. "Stanton wants this clean. No survivors." Emily's breath caught. Briggs pocketed his phone. "It's not much, but it's enough to keep the case alive if you testify." Emily nodded. "I'll testify." "There's one more thing." Briggs hesitated. "Stanton knows you're the key witness, and he knows where you are." So he's not going to wait 3 weeks. He's going to come after you. And this time, it won't be mercenaries. It'll be something worse." Emily met his eyes. "Like what?" Briggs' expression was grim. "Like making sure you never make it to trial." Boss. They moved her that night. A safe house on the outskirts of Silvergate, tucked into a neighborhood where every house looked the same. 2 stories. Beige siding, a front lawn that needed mowing. There were 2 agents assigned to her, one at the front door, one at the back. Briggs said they'd rotate every 12 hours. Emily didn't sleep. She sat on the couch in the living room, staring at the wall, replaying the last 48 hours in her head. The hospital, the gunfire, the bodies. Price's face on the TV. Her phone, back on now, buzzed on the coffee table. Another unknown number. She let it ring. It stopped, then started again. Emily picked it up. "What?" A woman's voice, young, shaky. "Miss Harper, this is Sarah Ruiz, Kyle's sister." Emily sat up straight. "Is he okay?" "He's stable. The doctors say he's going to recover." A pause. "Because of you." Emily's throat tightened. "I just did my job." "No, you saved his life. Twice." Sarah's voice cracked. "I don't know what's going on. I don't know why people are saying those things about you, but I know my brother is alive because of you, and I wanted you to know that." Emily closed her eyes. "Thank you." "Miss Harper?" "Yeah." "Be careful, please." The line went dead. Emily set the phone down and leaned back against the couch. For the first time in 2 days, she felt something other than anger or fear. She felt something that almost resembled hope. It didn't last. The front window exploded inward in a shower of glass. Emily hit the floor, rolling behind the couch as gunfire erupted. The agent at the front door went down immediately. The agent at the back was shouting into his radio, returning fire. Emily grabbed the coffee table and flipped it onto its side, using it as cover. She could hear footsteps, multiple sets, moving fast, coordinated, professional. The back door splintered open. The second agent fired twice, then went silent. Emily's pulse hammered in her ears. She reached for the lamp on the side table, yanked the cord free, and gripped the base like a weapon. It wasn't much, but it was something. A figure stepped into the living room, tactical gear, rifle raised. Emily waited. He moved closer. She swung the lamp hard, smashing it into the side of his helmet. He stumbled. She grabbed his rifle, twisted it out of his hands, and slammed the stock into his face. He dropped. Another figure appeared in the doorway. Emily fired. He went down. Silence. Emily stood slowly, breathing hard, the rifle still raised. Then she heard it. A slow clap from the front door. A man stepped inside, unarmed, hands in his pockets. He was older, 50s maybe, with silver hair and a calm, almost amused expression. "You're impressive," he said. "I'll give you that." Emily kept the rifle trained on him. "Who are you?" "Someone who's been watching you for a very long time." He glanced at the bodies on the floor. "My employer was right. You're dangerous." "Stanton sent you." The man smiled. "Stanton sends everyone." Emily's finger hovered over the trigger. "You should have sent more men." "Oh, I didn't come here to kill you." The man tilted his head. "I came here to deliver a message." "I'm listening." "Drop the case, disappear, and we'll leave you alone." Emily's jaw tightened. "No." "No?" The man's smile widened. "You really think you can win? Stanton has judges in his pocket, senators, generals. You're one person, one voice. You think anyone's going to believe you?" "They'll believe the evidence." "What evidence?" The man laughed. "A garbled radio transmission? That's all you have. It won't hold up in court. And even if it does, do you really think Stanton's going to let it get that far?" Emily's hands didn't shake. "Get out." The man raised his hands in mock surrender. "I'm going, but think about what I said. You've got 3 weeks. That's a long time to stay alive." He turned and walked out, disappearing into the night. Emily stood there, the rifle still raised, her heart pounding. The agent at the front door groaned. Still alive. Emily dropped the rifle and ran to him, pressing her hands against the wound in his shoulder. "Stay with me! Stay with me!" He coughed, blood flecking his lips. "Briggs! Call Briggs!" Emily grabbed her phone with one hand, keeping pressure on the wound with the other. Briggs answered on the first ring. "Harper?" "They found us." A pause, then quietly. "How many?" "3. 2 down. 1 walked away." "Are you hurt?" "No." "But your agent is." "I'm sending backup. Stay where you are." "Briggs, stay where you are." The line went dead. Emily looked down at the agent, his face pale, his breathing shallow. She kept pressure on the wound and waited. And in the silence, she realized something. Stanton wasn't trying to kill her. He was trying to break her. And she wasn't going to let him. The backup arrived 12 minutes later. 3 vehicles, 6 agents, paramedics. They swarmed the safe house like ants, securing the perimeter, photographing the bodies, loading the wounded agent onto a stretcher. Emily stood outside on the front lawn, still wearing borrowed sweatpants and a t-shirt from the safe house closet, her hands stained with someone else's blood. Briggs pulled up in an unmarked sedan and got out without shutting the door. He took one look at the scene and swore under his breath. "You okay?" Emily nodded, but her jaw was tight. "They weren't here to kill me." "I know." "How did they find us?" Briggs rubbed his face. "I don't know. This location was classified. Only 4 people knew about it." "Then one of them talked." Briggs met her eyes. "Or one of them is on Stanton's payroll." Emily's stomach turned. "You have a leak." "Yeah, a big one." Briggs glanced back at the safe house, at the agents moving in and out. "We can't stay here. We can't use any of our safe houses. If Stanton's got someone inside, he'll know the moment we move you." "So what do we do?" Briggs was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out his phone. "There's one place he won't think to look." "Where?" "Somewhere off the grid. No federal protection. No paper trail." He looked at her. "But it's risky. And you'll be on your own." Emily's voice was flat. "I'm already on my own." Briggs nodded slowly. "Okay, pack light. We leave in 10. The motel was an hour outside Silvergate, the kind of place where you paid cash and nobody asked questions. The sign out front advertised HBO and free Wi-Fi, but Emily doubted either worked. The room smelled like cigarette smoke and mildew, and the bedspread had stains she didn't want to think about. Briggs tossed a duffel bag onto the bed. Clothes, toiletries, burner phone. "There's $5,000 in the bottom, small bills. Don't use your credit cards. Don't call anyone you know. Don't go anywhere familiar." Emily unzipped the bag and looked inside. "How long?" 2 weeks, maybe 3. Depends on how fast we can build the case." Briggs pulled out his own phone. "I'll check in every 72 hours. If I don't call, assume something's wrong and move. Move where? Anywhere. He handed her a second phone, older, flip style. This is a backup. Only use it if the burner gets compromised. There's one number programmed in. Mine. Memorize it, then delete it. Emily took the phone. You think Stanton's going to find me again? I think Stanton's going to try. Briggs moved toward the door. Keep your head down. Don't be a hero. And for the love of everything, don't do anything stupid. Emily almost smiled. Too late for that. Briggs paused at the door. Harper, what you did at the hospital, that took guts. But this is different. You're not fighting mercenaries. You're fighting a system, and systems don't play fair. Neither do I. Briggs looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded and left. Emily locked the door behind him, tested the chain, and checked the window. The parking lot was empty except for a rusted pickup truck and a sedan with a missing hubcap. Across the street, a gas station glowed sickly yellow in the dark. She sat down on the bed and stared at the burner phone in her hand. 2 weeks. She could do 2 weeks. She'd done worse. The first 3 days were the hardest. Emily barely left the room. She kept the curtains drawn, the lights off, the TV on low just for background noise. She ate vending machine snacks and drank lukewarm water from the bathroom tap. Every time a car pulled into the parking lot, her hand went to the knife Briggs had left in the duffel bag, a 4-inch fixed blade with a rubberized grip. She didn't sleep much. When she did, she dreamed about Syria, about the ambush, about the faces of her unit frozen in those last moments before everything went wrong. On the 4th day, the burner phone rang. Emily grabbed it. Yeah, it's me. Briggs's voice was clipped. We've got a problem. Emily's pulse spiked. What kind of problem? The audio from the hospital attack, the one with Stanton's name on it. Defense is arguing it's inadmissible. They're claiming the recording was tampered with. Was it? No, but they've got an expert witness saying otherwise, and the judge is listening. Emily closed her eyes. So we've got nothing. We've got you, your testimony. But without that recording, it's your word against Stanton's, and his lawyers are going to tear you apart on the stand. Let them try. Harper, I'm serious. They're going to dig into your past, your military record, your psych evals. They're going to paint you as unstable, a traumatized vet who cracked under pressure. Emily's voice went cold. I didn't crack. I know, but that's not how it's going to look. Briggs paused. There's something else. Stanton's team leaked your photo to the press. The one from Syria. You're all over the news again. People are looking for you. Good. Good? Briggs sounded incredulous. Harper, you're supposed to be lying low. I'm done lying low. Emily stood pacing the small room. Stanton wants to make me the story? Fine. Let's make him the story. What are you talking about? You said systems don't play fair, so let's stop playing by their rules. Emily's mind was racing now, piecing together a plan. Stanton's untouchable because no one knows who he is. He hides behind his lawyers, his connections, his money. But everyone knows who I am now. Everyone's watching. And if something happens to me, it won't just disappear. It'll be news. It'll be headlines. It'll be questions Stanton can't afford to answer. Briggs was quiet for a moment. You're talking about using yourself as bait. I'm talking about fighting back. That's insane. That's war. Emily stopped pacing. You want to nail Stanton? Then give me a shot at him. Let me draw him out. Absolutely not. Briggs, no. My job is to keep you alive until trial, not to send you into a trap. Your job is to get justice for my unit, for Kyle, for everyone Stanton's hurt. And if that means I take a risk, then I take a risk. Briggs exhaled slowly. You're not listening to me. I'm listening. I just don't care. Emily's voice softened slightly. Look, I've been running for 6 years. I'm tired. I want this over. And if you won't help me, I'll do it myself. Another long silence, then Briggs spoke, his voice resigned. If I do this, if you follow my lead, no improvising, no going rogue, deal. I mean it, Harper. You step out of line once, I pull you out. Understood. Briggs sighed. I'll call you back in 24 hours. Don't do anything stupid in the meantime. Define stupid. He hung up. Emily set the phone down and allowed herself a small, grim smile. The plan came together faster than Emily expected. Briggs called back 18 hours later with the details. They were going to leak her location, not the real one, but close enough to draw attention. A diner on the south side of Silvergate, public enough to discourage an all-out assault but isolated enough to control the variables. Emily would go in, have breakfast, make herself visible. Briggs and his team would set up surveillance in the surrounding buildings. If Stanton's people showed, they'd be ready. And if they don't show, Emily asked, then we go to trial and hope for the best. Great plan. You got a better one? Emily didn't. She arrived at the diner just after 7 in the morning, wearing jeans, a black jacket, and a baseball cap pulled low. The place was called Rosie's, a greasy spoon with cracked vinyl booths and a countertop that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since the 90s. There were maybe a dozen people inside, construction workers, a couple of truck drivers, an old man reading a newspaper. Emily took a seat in a booth by the window and ordered coffee. The waitress, mid-40s, bleached blonde, name tag that said Deb, poured the coffee without comment. Emily wrapped her hands around the mug and stared out the window at the street. Briggs's voice crackled in the tiny earpiece he'd given her. We've got eyes on you. Stay calm. Act normal. Emily took a sip of coffee. It tasted like burnt rubber. Define normal. Don't get cute, just sit tight. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Emily ordered eggs and toast, picked at them without much appetite. A couple of people glanced her way, but no one seemed to recognize her. The TV mounted in the corner was playing the morning news, some story about a traffic pileup on the interstate. Then the door opened. A man walked in, mid-30s, clean-cut, wearing khakis and a polo shirt. He looked like a real estate agent or a youth pastor, non-threatening, forgettable. But Emily saw the way his eyes swept the room, saw the slight bulge under his jacket. Her pulse quickened. The man sat down at the counter, 2 seats away from an older woman drinking tea. He ordered coffee, pulled out his phone, and started scrolling. Briggs's voice in her ear, "We've got him. White male, counter seat. You see him?" "Yeah." "Stay put. We're moving in." Emily's hand went to the knife in her jacket pocket. "How long?" 2 minutes, maybe 3. The man at the counter glanced up. His eyes met Emily's for just a second. Then he looked away. But it was enough. He knew. Emily stood slowly, leaving a 20 on the table. She walked toward the restroom at the back of the diner, her movements casual, unhurried. The man at the counter set down his coffee and stood. Emily pushed through the restroom door, locked it behind her, and pulled out the knife. The bathroom was small. 1 sink, 1 toilet, a narrow window above the stall that probably hadn't been opened in years. She moved to the window, tested it. Stuck. Footsteps in the hallway, a knock on the door. "Occupied," Emily called. The knock came again, harder. Emily braced herself, knife in hand. The door burst open, lock splintering, hinges screaming. The man stepped inside, gun raised. Emily moved. She grabbed his wrist, twisted it sharply, and slammed his arm against the doorframe. The gun clattered to the floor. He threw an elbow. She ducked, drove the knife into his thigh, and shoved him backward into the hallway. He stumbled, gasping, blood spreading across his khakis. Emily kicked the gun under the sink and bolted. She ran through the kitchen, past a startled cook, and out the back door into the alley. Sirens wailed in the distance. Briggs was shouting in her earpiece, "Harper, what the hell are you doing? We had him." "He made me. I had to move. We're 2 blocks away. Stay where you are." Emily didn't answer. She was already running. The alley opened onto a side street. She cut left, then right, weaving through traffic, ignoring the honking horns and shouted curses. Her lungs burned. Her leg muscles screamed. But she didn't stop. A black sedan screeched around the corner behind her. Emily ducked into a parking garage, sprinting up the ramp to the 2nd level. She could hear the sedan's engine echoing off the concrete walls. She ducked behind a van, breathing hard, listening. The sedan stopped. Doors opened. Footsteps. 2 men. Maybe 3. Emily's hand tightened around the knife. A voice. Calm. Familiar. "Miss Harper, there's no point in running. We're not here to hurt you." It was the man from the safe house, the one who'd walked away. Emily stayed silent. "I told you to drop the case. You didn't listen. Now my employer is disappointed." Emily moved quietly along the row of cars, staying low, trying to get a better angle. "He sent me to deliver another message. But I don't think you're going to like it. Emily rounded the corner of a pickup truck and found herself face to face with one of the other men. He was young, maybe 25, with a buzz cut and dead eyes. He raised his gun. Emily lunged, knocking the barrel aside. The gun went off, the shot deafening in the enclosed space. She drove the knife into his side, ripped it free, and shoved him into the truck. He collapsed, gasping. The other men were running now. Emily grabbed the fallen gun and fired twice, forcing them to take cover. Then she ran again, back down the ramp, out onto the street. Briggs's voice in her ear. "Harper, we're 30 seconds out. Do not engage." Emily ripped out the earpiece and threw it into a storm drain. She ran 3 more blocks before ducking into an abandoned building, some kind of old warehouse with boarded-up windows and graffiti covering the walls. She found a corner behind a stack of rotting pallets and finally let herself stop. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought it might burst. Blood, not hers, stained her jacket. She'd killed 2 men in 2 days, and she didn't feel anything. Emily stayed in the warehouse for 2 hours, waiting for the adrenaline to fade, waiting for her hands to stop shaking. When she finally emerged, the sun was high and the streets were crowded. She ditched the jacket in a dumpster, bought a hoodie from a thrift store with cash, and kept moving. The burner phone rang. She answered. "I'm fine." "The hell you are." Briggs sounded furious. "You just blew the entire operation. We had surveillance, we had backup, we had a plan. And you ran." "He made me." "So you kill him and run? That's your solution?" "He was going to kill me. We had agents 30 seconds away." Emily stopped walking. "Briggs, they knew. They knew where I was. They knew you'd be there. Someone told them." Briggs went quiet. "You've got a leak," Emily continued, "a bad one. And until you plug it, I'm a sitting duck. So what are you going to do? Go off the grid? Play vigilante?" "I'm going to finish this." "How?" Emily's voice was cold. "By finding Stanton myself." "That's suicide." "Maybe. But at least I'll go down swinging." Emily hung up and dropped the phone into a trash can. She was done running, done hiding, done waiting for someone else to fix this. Stanton wanted her dead? Fine. Let him try. It took Emily 3 days to track down the lead. She started by going back to the hospital, not inside, but close enough to watch the comings and goings. She recognized one of the federal agents Briggs had brought in, a younger guy with nervous energy and too many coffee runs. She followed him to a bar after his shift, watched him drink alone for an hour, and then approached. "You're with Briggs's team." The agent looked up, startled. "Who? Jesus, you're Emily Harper." "Yeah, you're supposed to be in protective custody." "I left." Emily sat down across from him. "I need information." "I can't." "You can, and you will, because if you don't, Stanton walks, and everyone who died in Syria died for nothing." The agent stared at her, then he drained his beer. "What do you want to know?" "Stanton's location, where he operates, who he trusts." "That's classified. So's my testimony. But here we are." The agent rubbed his face. "Look, even if I wanted to help, I don't have that kind of access. Stanton's file is locked down, need-to-know basis." "Then find someone who knows." The agent shook his head. "You're asking me to commit career suicide." "I'm asking you to do the right thing." The agent looked at her for a long time. Then he pulled out his phone. "There's a guy, works in records. He owes me a favor." "Call him." The agent hesitated, then he dialed. 2 hours later, Emily had an address. Samg. Victor Stanton lived in a gated estate 20 miles outside Silvergate, the kind of place with security cameras on every tree and guards at the entrance. Emily didn't try to get in the front. She waited until midnight, parked her stolen car half a mile away, and approached on foot through the woods. The perimeter fence was 12 feet high, topped with razor wire. Emily followed it until she found a drainage culvert running under the property line. It was narrow, barely 2 feet wide, and filled with stagnant water and debris. She crawled through, ignoring the smell, ignoring the cold water soaking her clothes. She came out on the other side inside the estate grounds. The main house was 100 yards away, lit up like a Christmas display. Emily stayed low, moving through the shadows, avoiding the security lights. She reached a side entrance, a door leading into what looked like a garage. Locked. She pulled out the knife and wedged it into the door frame, applying pressure until the lock gave with a soft click. Inside, the garage was pristine. 3 luxury cars, all black, all spotless. Emily moved through, listening, watching. A hallway. Then a staircase. She climbed. The house was silent except for the hum of air conditioning. Emily reached the second floor, checked each room. Empty. 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 Then she found the office. It was large, wood-paneled, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a massive desk covered in papers. Emily moved to the desk and started rifling through the documents. Most of it was legal jargon, contracts, financial statements. Then she found it. A folder labeled Syria, Cleanup Protocol. Emily opened it. Inside were photos. Her unit, all 12 of them. Each photo had a red X through the face, except for 3. Hers, Kyle's, and 1 other. A name she didn't recognize. Lieutenant Marcus Hayes. Emily's blood went cold. There was another survivor, and Stanton was hunting him. A voice behind her. "You shouldn't be here." Emily spun. Victor Stanton stood in the doorway, unarmed, dressed in a suit despite the late hour. He looked exactly like his photos, silver hair, cold eyes, the kind of face that had seen too much and felt too little. "Miss Harper, I was wondering when you'd come." Emily's hand went to the knife. "Where is he? Where's Hayes?" Stanton smiled. "Dead 2 days ago. Car accident. Very tragic." Emily's grip tightened. "You're lying." "Am I?" Stanton stepped into the room. "You're the last one, Emily, the last loose end. And once you're gone, this all disappears." "You won't get away with this." "I already have." Stanton gestured to the folder. "There's no evidence, no witnesses, just a traumatized veteran who broke into my home and threatened me. Self-defense is a beautiful thing, don't you think?" Emily raised the knife. "Try it." Stanton didn't move. "You could kill me right now. I know you could. But then what? You go to prison. The case falls apart, and everything you fought for means nothing." Emily's hand trembled. Stanton watched her, his expression almost pitying. "You're not a killer, Emily. You're a soldier. There's a difference. You're wrong." "Am I?" Emily's finger hovered on the knife, then the room exploded. The window shattered. Glass rained down. Emily hit the floor, covering her head. Gunfire, automatic, coming from outside. Stanton dropped behind the desk, shouting into a phone. Emily scrambled to her feet and ran. She made it to the hallway before the door at the end burst open. Men in tactical gear poured in, rifles raised. Not Stanton's men. Federal. Briggs's team. Briggs stepped through, gun drawn, eyes locked on Emily. "Get down, now!" Emily raised her hands and dropped to her knees. Briggs moved past her toward the office. "Stanton, federal agents, come out with your hands up!" A pause. Then Stanton's voice, calm as ever. "Agent Briggs, what a surprise!" Briggs entered the office. Emily couldn't see what happened next, but she heard it. A single gunshot. Then silence. Emily's heart stopped. Briggs emerged from the office, his face pale. He looked at Emily. "He's dead." Emily stared at him. "What?" "Stanton, he pulled a gun. I had no choice." Emily's mind raced. "The folder, the evidence, did you—" "We got it. All of it." Briggs holstered his weapon. "It's over, Harper. It's finally over." Emily stood slowly, her legs shaking. It should have felt like victory. It should have felt like justice, but all she felt was empty. Briggs put a hand on her shoulder. "Come on, let's get you out of here." Emily nodded and followed him down the stairs, out of the house, into the flashing lights of the federal vehicles. As they loaded her into the back of an SUV, Emily looked back at the estate, at the house where Stanton had lived, where he'd planned, where he'd hidden. And she thought about Hayes, about the red X through his photo, about the fact that Briggs had known exactly where to find them. Her stomach turned. She looked at Briggs, sitting in the front seat, talking on his phone. And for the first time since this all started, Emily wondered if she'd been hunting the wrong man. The SUV rolled through the night, headlights cutting through darkness, and Emily sat in the back seat watching Briggs's reflection in the rearview mirror. He was still on the phone, voice low, clipped, professional. But something about the way he held his shoulders, too rigid, too controlled, made her stomach tighten. She counted the turns, memorized the route, noted the way the driver never spoke, never looked back. They weren't heading toward the federal building. Emily's hand moved slowly to the door handle. Locked, child-proof locks, the kind you couldn't open from inside. Briggs ended his call and turned slightly in his seat. "You all right back there?" "Where are we going?" "Debrief. Standard procedure after an incident like this." "This isn't the way to your office." Briggs smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Different facility, more secure. Emily's pulse kicked up. Secure from what? Press. Lawyers. People who might want to ask questions before we're ready to answer them. He turned back around. "Relax, Harper. You're safe now." That word, safe. The way he said it made her skin crawl. She looked out the window. They were heading east, away from the city, toward the industrial district where warehouses lined the river and streetlights were sparse. Not a place for federal debriefs, a place where things disappeared. Emily shifted in her seat, testing her range of motion. The seatbelt was standard, the door handle useless. No weapons except the knife still tucked in her boot, if they'd missed it during the rush to get her out of Stanton's house. She felt for it slowly. Still there. "How did you know?" Emily asked, keeping her voice steady. Briggs glanced at her in the mirror. "Know what?" "Where to find us. At Stanton's estate. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. We've been tracking you since you ditched the earpiece. Took a while, but we picked up your trail." "Through what?" "I ditched my phone, used cash, stayed off cameras." Briggs's smile tightened. "You'd be surprised what we can track." Emily leaned forward slightly. "You knew where Stanton lived all along, didn't you?" "Of course we did." "Then why wait? Why not raid him weeks ago?" "Because we needed evidence. We needed him to make a move." Briggs turned to face her fully now. "And we needed someone desperate enough to walk into his house and give us probable cause." Emily's blood went cold. "You used me." "I protected you." "You made me bait. I made you useful." Briggs's voice hardened. "You wanted Stanton dead. Now he is. You wanted justice for your unit. Now you've got it. I don't see the problem." Emily's hand inched toward her boot. "The problem is you're lying." The driver's eyes flicked to the mirror. Briggs raised a hand slightly, a signal to stay calm. "Harper, I know you're tired, paranoid. You've been through hell, but you need to trust me." "Like Hayes trusted you?" Briggs's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. "Hayes is dead. Car accident. I already told you." "You told me a lot of things." Emily's fingers closed around the knife handle. "How did you really find me at Stanton's house?" "I told you." "You told me a story. But here's what I think actually happened." Emily's voice was quiet, deadly. "You've known where Stanton was the whole time. You've been watching him, protecting him, because he wasn't the only one burying evidence from Syria." Briggs went very still. "You were there," Emily continued. "You were part of the operation, the one that went wrong, the one that got my unit killed. And when Stanton started cleaning up loose ends, you helped him. Because if the truth came out, you'd go down too." The driver's hand moved toward his jacket. Emily pulled the knife and pressed it against the back of Briggs's seat. The blade angled up toward his spine. "Tell him to keep driving, both hands on the wheel." Briggs's voice was calm. "Harper, now." Briggs nodded to the driver. "Do what she says." The driver's hands returned to the wheel. Emily kept the knife steady. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me the truth, all of it. And if I believe you, maybe I don't put this blade through your seat." Briggs sighed, almost disappointed. "You really want to do this?" "I really do." "Fine." Briggs shifted slightly, getting comfortable. "You're right. I was in Syria. Not on the ground. Coordination. I fed your unit the intel that sent you into that ambush. But I didn't know it was bad intel. I didn't know Stanton had sold you out." "But you found out." "After. When the bodies came back. When the reports didn't match the evidence." Briggs's voice was matter-of-fact. "Stanton offered me a choice. Help him bury it, or go down with him. I chose survival." Emily's jaw clenched. "You let him kill them." "I let him clean up a mess. There's a difference." "And Hayes?" "Hayes figured it out, started asking questions. Stanton wanted him dead, I agreed." Briggs glanced at her in the mirror. He was a liability, just like you. Emily's hand tightened on the knife. So what's the plan? Kill me? Make it look like an accident? Actually, no. Briggs smiled. We're going to make you disappear, quietly, permanently. And in 6 months, when people forget, the official story will be that you couldn't handle the pressure, PTSD. Suicide. Very tragic. People will ask questions. People always ask questions. But without a body, without proof, those questions don't lead anywhere. Briggs turned to face her fully, no longer pretending. You should have taken the deal, Harper. Should have disappeared when I gave you the chance. Now it's too late. Emily met his eyes. You're right. It is too late. She drove the knife through the seat. Briggs screamed. The driver swerved. Emily grabbed the headrest and pulled herself forward, wrapping her arm around the driver's throat. He clawed at her, the car veering wildly. Briggs was fumbling for his gun, his face twisted in pain. Emily kicked the back of his seat hard, slamming him forward into the dashboard. The gun fell. The driver's elbow caught her in the ribs. She gasped, tightened her grip. He was stronger than her, but she had leverage. She pulled harder, cutting off his air. The car jumped the curb, sideswiped a street sign, and crashed into a chain-link fence. The impact threw Emily backward. Her head cracked against the window. Stars exploded across her vision. The driver slumped forward, unconscious or dead. Briggs was groaning, clutching his back where the knife had gone in. Emily kicked the window. Once, twice. The glass spiderwebbed. Third kick, it shattered. She crawled through, cutting her arms on the broken edges, and tumbled onto the pavement. She forced herself to stand, swaying, blood dripping from her hands. Briggs was trying to get out of the car, his movement slow, agonized. Emily ran. She made it 2 blocks before her legs gave out. She collapsed behind a dumpster in an alley, gasping for air, her ribs screaming. Blood was running down her arms, soaking into her sleeves. Her head throbbed. She checked herself over, cuts, bruises, nothing life-threatening, nothing that would stop her. She pulled herself up and kept moving. The streets were empty. It was past midnight, this part of the city abandoned after dark. Emily found a payphone, ancient, half-broken, but it worked. She dialed the one number she'd memorized. It rang 4 times. Then a voice, rough with sleep. Who is this? It's Emily Harper. I need help. A pause. How did you get this number? From someone who's trying to kill me. Are you Marcus Hayes? Another pause, longer this time. Yeah. Emily's breath caught. You're alive. For now. Who's trying to kill you? Agent Marcus Briggs, federal investigator. He was part of the Syria op. He's been covering for Stanton. Hayes swore softly. Where are you? Industrial district, near the river. I don't know exactly. Stay where you are. I'm 20 minutes out. How do I know I can trust you? You don't. But right now, I'm the only person in this city who believes you. Hayes hung up. Emily leaned against the phone booth, sliding down until she was sitting on the cracked pavement. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. 20 minutes. She could last 20 minutes. She hoped. What? A truck pulled up 14 minutes later, old, beat up, with rust along the wheel wells. The driver's door opened and a man stepped out. Mid-30s, military build, dark hair cut short. A scar ran from his left eyebrow to his cheekbone. Marcus Hayes. He took one look at Emily and moved quickly, pulling her to her feet. Can you walk? Yeah. Good. We need to move. Briggs will have people looking for you. He helped her into the truck, then climbed in and drove. Emily watched him from the corner of her eye. You were supposed to be dead. I was. Officially. Briggs sent a hit team after me 3 weeks ago. I got lucky. Killed 2 of them, faked my death with the 3rd. Hayes glanced at her. You weren't supposed to survive tonight either, were you? No. But you did. Which means Briggs is panicking, and panicked men make mistakes. Hayes turned down a side street, then another, doubling back. How much do you know? Briggs was part of the Syria operation. He fed us bad intel. When things went sideways, Stanton offered him a deal, help cover it up or go down with him. Briggs chose cover-up. Hayes nodded slowly. That matches what I found. But there's more. Stanton wasn't just smuggling weapons. He was selling classified intel to foreign buyers. Our unit stumbled onto evidence of it. That's why we were ambushed. That's why they wanted us all dead. Emily's stomach turned. How high does this go? Higher than Stanton, higher than Briggs. Hayes pulled into an abandoned parking garage and killed the engine. I've been digging for 2 years. I've got names, transactions, recordings, everything we need to bring them all down. Then why haven't you? Because the moment I surface, I'm dead. They've got people everywhere, federal agencies, local police, judges. I needed someone on the outside, someone they didn't know about. Hayes looked at her. I was going to reach out to you eventually, but you beat me to it. Emily leaned her head back against the seat. So what now? Now we go public, all of it. Every name, every crime. We flood the media, the courts, the internet. We make it impossible to bury. Hayes pulled out a laptop from behind his seat. But we need to move fast. Briggs knows you talked to me. He'll be scrambling to cover his tracks. He's already covering them. He killed Stanton tonight. Made it look like self-defense. Hayes swore. Smart. With Stanton dead, Briggs becomes the hero. The agent who took down the corrupt contractor. His word against yours. Not just mine. Yours too. I'm dead, remember? Officially. My testimony won't hold up if they can't prove I exist. Hayes opened the laptop and pulled up a folder. But this will. Emily leaned closer. The screen showed documents, contracts, bank transfers, emails, all linking Stanton, Briggs, and half a dozen other names to the Syria operation. How did you get this? Stanton kept backups. Insurance, in case Briggs ever turned on him. I found them when I broke into his estate last year. Hayes scrolled through the files. It's all here. Proof of the weapons sales, the intel leaks, the payments to Briggs. Everything. Emily stared at the screen. Why didn't you release this before? Because I needed leverage. If I released it, they'd know I was alive. They'd come after me. But now? Hayes looked at her. Now they think we're both dead or dying. We've got maybe 12 hours before they realize their mistake. We need to use it. Emily nodded. How? Hayes pulled out a flash drive. We copy everything onto this. Then we send it to every major news outlet, every oversight committee, every whistleblower organization we can find. We make it public before they can shut us down. And then? And then we hope we live long enough to see them burn. No. It took 3 hours to copy and encrypt the files. Hayes worked fast, his fingers flying across the keyboard, double-checking every transfer. Emily kept watch, her knife back in her hand, her eyes scanning the shadows. At one point, Hayes paused. There's something you should see. Emily moved closer. On the screen was an audio file. Hayes clicked play. A voice. Male. Cold. Familiar. Briggs. The Harper woman is becoming a problem. She's asking questions. Another voice. Deeper. Stanton. Then eliminate her. I can't, not yet. She's too visible. If she disappears now, people will notice. Then make her invisible. Discredit her. Destroy her credibility. Once she's nothing, no one will care if she vanishes. A pause. Then Briggs again. What about the others? Hayes. Ruiz. Hayes is already handled. Ruiz is in the hospital. He won't last long. And if Harper testifies? She won't. We'll make sure of it. The recording ended. Emily's hands were shaking again, not from fear, from rage. They were planning this from the start, she said quietly. Hayes nodded. They never intended to let you live. The trial, the protection, all of it was a setup to keep you controlled until they could get rid of you. Emily stared at the screen. How long have you had this recording? 2 weeks. I was waiting for the right moment to use it. Hayes ejected the flash drive and handed it to her. This is it. This is everything. Guard it with your life. Emily took the drive, closed her fist around it. Where do we go from here? We split up. You take the drive and get it to someone you trust, someone outside the system. I'll create a diversion, make Briggs think I'm coming after him, buy you time. That's suicide. Hayes smiled grimly. Maybe. But if I'm going down, I'm taking them with me. Emily shook her head. There's got to be another way. There isn't. Briggs has resources, manpower. The moment we surface, he'll throw everything at us. One of us needs to survive long enough to get the truth out. Hayes met her eyes. That's you. Why me? But because you already died once. On paper, anyway. Briggs listed you as KIA after Syria. Your records are buried. You're a ghost. That's your advantage. Hayes grabbed a backpack from the truck bed and handed it to her. Fake ID, cash, burner phones. Everything you need to disappear. Get to a reporter, someone national, someone who can't be silenced. Give them the drive and tell them everything. Emily took the backpack. And you? I'll make sure Briggs is too busy to come after you. Hayes, it's already decided. Hayes pulled out a gun and checked the magazine. You've got 12 hours. Don't waste them. Emily stood there, the weight of the flash drive in her hand, the weight of everything pressing down on her chest. Hayes started the truck. There's one more thing. When this goes public, they're going to come at you hard. Briggs, his allies, everyone involved. They'll try to discredit you, destroy you, make you wish you'd stayed dead. I know. Good. Hayes put the truck in gear. Then make it count. Emily climbed out. Hayes drove away, taillights disappearing into the darkness. She stood alone in the empty parking garage, holding a flash drive that could bring down an entire network of corruption, or get her killed trying. She looked down at the drive, thought about her unit, about Kyle, about every person who'd been hurt or silenced or erased because someone decided they were inconvenient. She thought about Briggs sitting somewhere safe, thinking he'd won. Emily closed her fist around the drive and started walking. She made it to a 24-hour internet cafe on the other side of the city by dawn. The place was nearly empty, just a teenager playing video games in the corner and a clerk who didn't look up from his phone. Emily paid cash for an hour of computer time and sat down at a terminal in the back. She pulled up her email, created a new account. Anonymous. Untraceable. Then she started attaching files. Documents, audio recordings, bank statements. Everything Hayes had given her. Everything that proved what Briggs and Stanton had done. She typed a message. To whom it may concern. My name is Emily Harper. I'm a former Army reconnaissance specialist and current registered nurse. The information attached to this email contains evidence of treason, murder, and conspiracy involving multiple government officials and private contractors. I am sending this to you because I may not survive to testify in person. Please investigate. Please act. People have died for this information. Don't let their deaths be meaningless. She added every major news organization she could think of. Network news, newspapers, online journalists, oversight committees, senators, congressional representatives, 147 recipients. Her finger hovered over the send button. This was it. Once she hit send, there was no going back, no more hiding, no more running. She'd be putting a target on her back that would never go away. But staying silent meant everyone died for nothing. Emily clicked send. The progress bar crawled across the screen. 10%, 25%, 50%. The door to the cafe opened. Emily's head snapped up. 2 men, tactical gear, moving fast. Emily ran. She bolted for the back exit, shoving through the door into an alley. The men were right behind her, boots pounding concrete. 75%, 90%. Emily ducked behind a dumpster, pulled out the burner phone, dialed the emergency number Hayes had programmed in. It rang once. Hayes answered. Did you send it? Sending now. 95%. Gunfire. The dumpster shook as bullets punched through metal. Harper, listen to me. No matter what happens, don't stop running. The moment that email hits, the line went dead. Emily looked at the phone, then at the computer through the cafe window. 100%. Message sent. The screen changed. Notifications started flooding in. Replies. Confirmations. Alerts. It was done. Emily shoved the flash drive into her pocket and ran deeper into the alley. Behind her, one of the men spoke into a radio. Package sent. Target still mobile. A voice crackled back. Briggs. I don't care. Bring her in. Dead or alive. Emily ran harder. Shit. She made it 4 blocks before they cornered her in a dead-end alley. The 2 men blocked the entrance, weapons raised. No way out. Emily's back hit the brick wall. Her hand went to her knife. The men moved closer. Then the alley lit up with flashing lights. Police. Real police. Not Briggs's people. 3 squad cars, doors open, officers taking cover behind them. Federal agents, drop your weapons. The 2 men froze, looked at each other, then slowly lowered their guns and raised their hands. Emily stared, not understanding. An officer approached her, hands raised peacefully. Miss Harper? Emily Harper? She nodded. You're safe. We've been looking for you. Your email, it went to everyone, including us. The officer gestured to his squad car. We need to get you somewhere secure. There are people who want to talk to you. Emily's legs gave out. She slid down the wall, sitting hard on the pavement. It was over. She'd done it. The officer helped her up, guided her toward the squad car. As they reached it, Emily looked back at the two men being handcuffed. One of them met her eyes and smiled. Emily's blood went cold. Something was wrong. The officer opened the back door. Get in. You'll be safe now. Emily hesitated, looked at the officer's badge, at his face, at the way he held himself. Military posture, too rigid, too controlled, just like Briggs. Who sent you? Emily asked quietly. The officer smiled. Someone who wants to make sure you get a proper debrief. Emily stepped back. I'm not getting in that car. Miss Harper. I said no. The officer's hand went to his gun. Emily ran. She heard shouting behind her, more footsteps, but she didn't look back. She ran until her lungs burned, until her legs screamed, until she couldn't hear them anymore. She found herself at a bus station, bought a ticket with cash, didn't check the destination. She just got on and rode. 3 hours later, her burner phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You sent the files. Good. But Briggs isn't done. Check the news. Emily found a TV in the bus station lounge. Breaking news. Footage of a burning building. Flames pouring out of windows. The chyron at the bottom of the screen. Federal Records Facility destroyed in suspicious fire. Evidence in major corruption case lost. Emily's hands went numb. The reporter's voice continued. Officials say the fire destroyed years of sensitive documents, including evidence related to the ongoing investigation into private military contractor Victor Stanton and several federal agents. Authorities are calling it a tragic accident, but some are questioning the timing. Emily's phone buzzed again. He's erasing everything. You're the only evidence left. Run. Emily stared at the screen as the bus pulled away from the station. She'd won, and she'd lost, because the files were gone. The proof was gone. All that was left was her word against Briggs's, and Briggs had just made his first move. Emily rode that bus until it stopped at a small town 300 miles from Silvergate. She got off in the rain, walked until she found a motel that didn't ask for ID, and paid cash for a room with peeling wallpaper and a view of a parking lot. She sat on the bed and stared at her phone, watching the news cycle through the same footage of the burning building over and over. Her entire case. Gone. The phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Hayes is alive. Barely. They found him. He's at County Medical under guard. You need to move now. Emily's chest tightened. She typed back. Who is this? The response came immediately. Someone who was in Syria. Someone who survived because you drew fire. I owe you. Now run. Emily stared at the message. Then she deleted it, pulled the SIM card from the phone, and flushed it down the toilet. She walked to the motel office, used the payphone, called the one person she knew wouldn't be on Briggs's payroll. Sarah Ruiz answered on the third ring. Hello? It's Emily Harper. I need you to listen very carefully. Sarah met her at a diner 2 hours later, her face pale, her hands shaking as she slid into the booth across from Emily. They said you were dead. The news said... The news is lying. Emily kept her voice low. How's Kyle? He's awake, stable. They're moving him to a long-term care facility tomorrow. Sarah's eyes were red. What's happening? Everyone's saying you're a fugitive, that you killed federal agents. I didn't kill anyone who didn't try to kill me first. Emily leaned forward. Sarah, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Sarah hesitated, then nodded. Good. Kyle saw something that night at the hospital. The men who came after him, they weren't random. They were sent by someone powerful, someone who's been covering up war crimes for years. Emily pulled out a napkin and started writing. I sent evidence to every major outlet I could find. Most of it got buried or destroyed. But there's one person who might still have it. A journalist named Rebecca Ortega. She's with the Times. If anyone's going to run the story, it's her. Why are you telling me this? Because if something happens to me, I need someone to make sure the truth gets out. Emily slid the napkin across the table. That's Rebecca's contact information. If you don't hear from me in 48 hours, you call her. You tell her everything I just told you. You tell her about Kyle, about the hospital, about me. Sarah's hands were shaking harder now. They'll come after me. They might, but they'll come after you anyway if Kyle keeps talking about what he saw. Emily's voice softened. I'm not asking you to be brave. I'm asking you to be smart. The only way we stay alive is if everyone knows the truth. Sarah stared at the napkin, then she folded it carefully and put it in her pocket. What are you going to do? Finish this. Emily left the diner and walked 3 blocks to a library. She found a computer in the back, logged into a temporary email account, and started going through the responses to the files she'd sent out. Most were automated replies. Some were suspicious, generic responses that felt like honeypots designed to trace her location. But one caught her attention. The sender was Rebecca Ortega. The message was simple. I received your files. We need to talk. In person. Tomorrow morning. Brennan Park, North Entrance, 8 a.m. Come alone. If you're being followed, keep walking. Emily read it 3 times, deleted the email, cleared the browser history. She had 12 hours to decide if she trusted a journalist she'd never met. Emily arrived at Brennan Park 40 minutes early. The sun was just starting to rise, casting long shadows across the empty pathways. She positioned herself behind a cluster of trees with a clear view of the north entrance and waited. At 7:50, a woman approached. Mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, messenger bag over her shoulder. She looked around carefully, checking her surroundings, then sat down on a bench near the entrance. Rebecca Ortega. Emily watched for another 10 minutes. No one else appeared. No suspicious vehicles. No men in tactical gear. At 8:05, Emily stepped out from behind the trees and walked toward the bench. Rebecca looked up, her eyes sharp. You're late. I was making sure you came alone. Smart. Rebecca patted the bench beside her. Sit. Emily sat, keeping enough distance that she could move quickly if needed. Rebecca pulled out her phone, set it between them. I'm recording this. For my protection and yours. Everything you say will be on the record unless you specifically ask otherwise. Understood? Understood. Rebecca hit record. State your name for the recording. Emily Harper. Miss Harper, you sent me a file containing allegations of treason, murder, and conspiracy involving multiple federal officials and military contractors. Before we go any further, I need to know, can you verify the authenticity of these files? Yes. I was there. In Syria. I witnessed the intel failures that led to my unit's deaths. I have personal knowledge of the cover-up that followed. And the audio recordings? Recorded by Marcus Hayes, another survivor. He compiled evidence for 2 years before Stanton's people found him. Rebecca leaned back. Hayes is in critical condition at County Medical. I tried to visit him yesterday. Federal agents turned me away. They said he's a suspect in a terrorism investigation. Emily's stomach dropped. That's a lie. They're trying to discredit him before he can testify. I know, which is why I need more than his recordings. I need your testimony, on camera, everything. Syria, the hospital, Briggs, Stanton, all of it. Emily looked at the phone, at the red recording light. If I do this, there's no going back. If you don't do this, Briggs wins. Stanton's legacy stays intact. Your unit died for nothing. Rebecca's voice was gentle but firm. I've been investigating military corruption for 6 years. I know what happens when people stay silent. The system protects itself. The guilty walk free, and the victims get forgotten. Emily closed her eyes. Thought about the faces of her unit, about Kyle, fighting for his life because he knew too much. About Hayes, bleeding out in a hospital bed while Briggs's people spun lies. She opened her eyes. What do you need from me? They spent 3 hours in that park. Emily told Rebecca everything, the mission parameters in Syria, the intelligence that sent them into the ambush, the 8 bodies that came home in flag-draped coffins. She described the night at Silvergate Memorial, the mercenaries, the way Briggs had manipulated her into becoming bait. She explained the safe house attack, the warehouse confrontation, the moment she'd realized the federal agent protecting her was actually hunting her. Rebecca asked questions, took notes, cross-referenced details against the files Hayes had compiled. Her expression never changed. Professional, focused, relentless. When Emily finished, Rebecca stopped recording. I believe you. Emily's throat tightened. Yeah? Yeah, but belief isn't enough. I need corroboration, independent sources, documentation that can survive legal challenges. Rebecca pulled out a laptop. I've already started verification. Bank transfers check out. The audio recordings match voice analysis of Stanton and Briggs. But I need more. I need someone inside the system willing to confirm your story. Everyone inside the system either works for Briggs or is terrified of him. Not everyone. Rebecca pulled up a file on her laptop. There's an assistant director in internal affairs named Catherine Monroe. She's been investigating corruption in the federal law enforcement community for 20 years. No one's been able to touch her because she's built a reputation on being untouchable. If anyone can corroborate your story from the inside, it's her. How do we reach her? We don't, you do. Rebecca wrote down an address. This is her office. Walk in tomorrow morning. No appointment. Just tell the receptionist you have information about Marcus Briggs. Monroe will see you. And if it's a trap? Then you'll know within 5 minutes. Monroe doesn't play games. She'll either help you or arrest you. There's no in between. Rebecca handed her the address. But I think she'll help. Because the one thing Monroe hates more than criminals is corrupt federal agents. Emily took the paper. What about you? What are you going to do? I'm going to write the story. I'm going to fact-check every detail, build the timeline, and prepare it for publication. Once you meet with Monroe, I'll have 48 hours to get it out before Briggs realizes what's happening. Rebecca looked at her. This is going to get ugly. Briggs will come after both of us. The people protecting him will try to discredit the story, attack your credibility, maybe worse. You need to be ready for that. I've been ready since Syria. Rebecca smiled slightly. Then let's burn it all down. Emily spent that night in a different motel, replaying the plan in her head. Walk into Monroe's office. Tell her everything. Hope that the one person in the federal system with enough power to stop Briggs was willing to use it. The burner phone rang at 2 a.m. Emily grabbed it, heart pounding. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then a voice, weak and strained. Hayes. Harper, they're moving me. Tomorrow morning, transferred to a federal facility. I won't, make it there. Emily sat up. Where are you now? County Medical, 3rd floor, ICU. Guards at the door. Hayes coughed, the sound wet and painful. Listen to me. The recording, the one with Briggs and Stanton, there's more. I didn't give you everything. Emily's blood went cold. What do you mean? There's a second recording. Stanton talking to someone higher up. Someone giving orders. Hayes's breathing was getting worse. I hit it. Safe deposit box. First National Bank, downtown. Box 447. Key is taped under the sink in my apartment. Building E, Unit 12. Get it before they do. Hayes, I'm coming to get you. No, too dangerous. They're waiting for you to try. Hayes's voice dropped to a whisper. Get the recording. Give it to Monroe. She's the only one. The only one who can stop this. Hayes. The line went dead. Emily stared at the phone. Then she grabbed her jacket and ran. Hayes's apartment was in a rundown complex on the east side of town. Emily picked the lock on Unit 12 and slipped inside. The place had been tossed, drawers pulled out, cushions sliced open, papers scattered across the floor. Briggs's people had already been here. Emily moved to the bathroom, checked under the sink. Nothing. She ran her hand along the pipes, feeling for anything taped to the metal. There. A small key wrapped in duct tape. She pocketed it and left. First National Bank opened at 9. Emily was waiting outside at 8:30, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses, trying to look like someone who belonged. At 9:02, she walked in, went straight to the safe deposit boxes, and handed the key to the attendant. Box 447, please. The attendant checked the records. I'll need to see ID. Emily's stomach dropped. She didn't have Hayes's ID, didn't have any ID that would match the box registration. It's for Marcus Hayes. I'm his sister. He's in the hospital and asked me to get something from his box. The attendant looked skeptical. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I need to see identification matching the box holder. Bank policy. Emily leaned forward, lowering her voice. My brother is dying. He has maybe 48 hours left. He asked me to get one thing from this box. Please, I'm begging you. The attendant hesitated. Then she glanced around, saw the branch manager busy with another customer, and sighed. 5 minutes. I'm not supposed to do this. Thank you. The attendant led Emily to the vault, unlocked box 447, and stepped back. Emily opened it. Inside was a single USB drive. She pocketed it, closed the box, and walked out. Emily listened to the recording in the motel room, headphones on, volume low. The audio was clearer than the first one Hayes had given her. Stanton's voice came through first. The Harper situation is escalating. She's becoming a liability. Then another voice, older, authoritative, cold. Then eliminate the liability, quietly. Make it look like an accident. She's too visible now. The hospital incident made her famous. If she disappears, people will ask questions. Then create a narrative, PTSD, suicide, violent breakdown, whatever works. Just make her go away. And Briggs? Briggs is useful. Keep him on the leash. He follows orders well. And if he doesn't, then he becomes a liability too. The recording ended. Emily played it again. That voice, the second one, the one giving orders. She knew it. She'd heard it before. She pulled up a video search on her phone, typing keywords: congressional hearings, military oversight, defense appropriations. Then she found it. Senator James Corrigan, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, decorated veteran, 20 years in Congress, the face of military reform and accountability, and the man ordering Emily's death. Emily's hands started shaking. This wasn't just Briggs. This wasn't just Stanton. This went all the way to the top. She copied the recording onto 3 separate drives, hid one in her boot, one in the motel room air vent, and kept one in her pocket. Then she called Rebecca. I have something you need to hear, Shab. Rebecca met her 2 hours later in a parking garage, her face pale after listening to the recording. This is bigger than I thought. It's bigger than anyone thought. Emily's voice was flat. Corrigan has been running this operation from the beginning. Stanton was the contractor, Briggs was the fixer, but Corrigan was the one pulling the strings. If we publish this, Corrigan will destroy us. He has the power to bury this story, discredit both of us. Maybe worse. So what do we do? Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Then she looked up. We go nuclear. We don't just publish the story. We release everything at once. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence. We send it to every major outlet simultaneously. We make it impossible to bury. That'll take coordination, time, 48 hours. I've already got contacts at 6 different publications. They're waiting for my signal. Rebecca grabbed Emily's arm. But you need to talk to Monroe first. If she can arrest Briggs before the story breaks, it gives us credibility. It proves this isn't just a conspiracy theory. It shows the system can still work. And if she can't, then we publish anyway. And we hope the story is enough to protect us. Emily walked into Catherine Monroe's office at 10 a.m. the next morning. The receptionist tried to stop her, but Emily pushed past, opening the door to Monroe's private office without knocking. Monroe looked up from her desk, her expression shifting from annoyance to recognition. Emily Harper. We need to talk. Monroe stood, moved to the door, and locked it. Then she gestured to a chair. Sit. Emily sat. Monroe took the chair across from her, not behind the desk. Equal ground. I've been expecting you, Monroe said. Emily's eyes narrowed. How? Because I've been investigating Marcus Briggs for 6 months. And you're the one person left alive who can testify against him. Monroe leaned forward. I know about Syria, I know about the hospital, I know about the safe house attack, and I know that Briggs has been trying to kill you since the moment you became a witness. Then why haven't you arrested him? Because until 3 days ago, I didn't have enough evidence. Briggs covered his tracks well, but then you sent those files to Rebecca Ortega, and suddenly I had everything I needed. Monroe pulled out a folder. This is an arrest warrant for Marcus Briggs, conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, treason. It's signed by a federal judge who's been waiting for this case for 2 years. Emily stared at the warrant. When? Today. As soon as you confirm your testimony. Monroe pulled out a recorder. I need you to tell me everything, on the record. Once I have your statement, I'll execute the warrant. Emily looked at the recorder, at Monroe's face, at the chance to finally end this. There's more. It's not just Briggs. Monroe went very still. Explain. Emily pulled out the USB drive. Marcus Hayes recorded a conversation between Stanton and Senator James Corrigan. Corrigan ordered my death. He's been running the entire operation. Monroe's face went pale. She took the drive, plugged it into her laptop, and listened. When it finished, she sat back in her chair, her expression unreadable. Do you understand what this means? Yeah, it means the corruption goes higher than anyone thought. It means if we move against Corrigan without ironclad evidence, he'll crush us. He has the power to shut down investigations, fire federal officials, destroy careers. We need to be absolutely certain before we act. The recording is certain. The recording is evidence, but we need context, corroboration, witnesses. We need to build a case that's bulletproof. Monroe closed her laptop. I'm going to arrest Briggs today. That will send a signal to Corrigan that we're coming. He'll start covering his tracks, calling in favors, preparing his defense. But it will also force his hand, make him desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. How long will that take? Weeks? Maybe months? Emily shook her head. We don't have weeks. Briggs is already moving. Hayes is being transferred today. They're going to kill him before he can testify. Monroe's jaw tightened. Where is he? County Medical. 3rd floor ICU. Under federal guard. Monroe grabbed her phone, dialed. This is Assistant Director Monroe. I need a federal protective detail at County Medical immediately. 3rd floor ICU. Patient name Marcus Hayes. No one moves him without my authorization. Is that clear? She hung up. Hayes is safe, for now. Emily exhaled slowly. What about me? You stay here, in protective custody, until we execute the warrant on Briggs and neutralize the immediate threat. No. Monroe raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not sitting in a safe house waiting for someone else to fix this. Emily stood. I'm going to be there when you arrest Briggs. I'm going to look him in the eye when he realizes he lost. Monroe studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, but you follow my lead. No improvising. Understood? Understood. Bob. They arrested Briggs at his home in the suburbs. Monroe brought 6 agents, all armed, all briefed. Emily rode in the second vehicle, wearing a borrowed vest that said Federal Agent on the back. Briggs answered the door in a t-shirt and jeans, coffee mug in hand. His face went blank when he saw Monroe. Catherine? Marcus. Monroe held up the warrant. You're under arrest. Briggs set down his coffee slowly. For what? Conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, treason. Monroe nodded to the agents. Cuff him. Briggs didn't resist. As the agent secured his hands, his eyes found Emily standing behind Monroe. You really did it. Emily stepped forward. I told you I would. You realize this won't stop, right? Corrigan will come after you. He'll destroy you. Let him try. Briggs smiled, but it was bitter. You think you're the hero of this story. You're not. You're just another casualty waiting to happen. Monroe cut in. That's enough. Get him in the vehicle. As they led Briggs away, Emily watched him go. She waited to feel satisfaction. Victory. Justice. All she felt was tired. Monroe put a hand on her shoulder. You okay? Yeah, just empty. That's normal. You've been running on adrenaline for weeks. Now that it's over, the crash hits. Monroe looked at her. It's not really over, though. You know that. I know. Corrigan will move against you. He'll use every resource he has to discredit you, silence you, make you disappear. The only way to stay ahead of him is to go public. Tell your story. Make yourself too visible to kill quietly. Emily nodded. Rebecca's ready to publish. Good. Give her the signal. Monroe handed Emily a card. This is my direct line. If anything happens, anything, you call me. Day or night. Understood? Emily took the card. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This fight's just beginning. Rebecca's story went live at 6 p.m. The headline screamed across the Times homepage, Betrayal in Syria, Federal Agent Arrested in Military Cover-Up. Below it, a subheading, Exclusive Nurse-Turned-Whistleblower Exposes Years of Corruption. Emily read the article 3 times. Rebecca had structured it perfectly, starting with the hospital attack, then flashing back to Syria, weaving in the evidence, the recordings, the testimony. Emily's video statement was embedded halfway through, her face filling the screen as she described the ambush that killed her unit. The comments section exploded within minutes. Thousands of comments, tens of thousands. This woman is a hero. Everyone involved needs to go to prison. Why isn't this on the national news? If this is true, it goes all the way to the top. By 7 p.m., the story had been picked up by every major network. By 8 p.m., it was trending on social media. By 9 p.m., congressional representatives were calling for investigations. By 10 p.m., Senator James Corrigan issued a statement. Emily watched it on a TV in Monroe's office, her stomach churning. Corrigan stood at a podium, looking grave and concerned. I am deeply troubled by these allegations. If there is any truth to them, I promise a full and thorough investigation. But I want to be clear. I have never authorized illegal activity. I have never ordered harm against American service members. These accusations are baseless and politically motivated. The reporter asked a follow-up. Senator, there's an audio recording allegedly featuring your voice ordering the elimination of Emily Harper. How do you respond? Corrigan didn't flinch. I have not heard this alleged recording, but I can tell you with certainty it's either fabricated or taken out of context. I have dedicated my career to protecting our troops. The idea that I would harm one of them is absurd. Emily's hands clenched into fists. Monroe muted the TV. He's good. I'll give him that. He's lying. Of course he's lying, but he's lying effectively. And unless we can prove beyond a doubt that it's his voice on that recording, his denial will create reasonable doubt. Monroe turned to Emily. We need more. Another witness. Another piece of evidence. Something that directly links Corrigan to the Syria operation. Hayes, he was there. He saw Corrigan's people giving orders. Hayes is in a coma. The doctors don't know if he'll wake up. Emily's chest tightened. Then we find someone else. Who? Emily thought. Ran through the timeline in her head. The mission briefing, the intel packet, the chain of command. Then it hit her. The mission briefing in Syria. Someone had to authorize it. Someone had to sign off on sending us into that area. Those orders would have come from the top. Monroe's eyes sharpened. Military records. If we can trace the authorization back to Corrigan's office, we prove he knew. We prove he sent us there. Emily stood. How do we get those records? I'll need a warrant and a cooperative judge and about 48 hours. Monroe grabbed her phone. But I'll get them. The records arrived 3 days later in a sealed box delivered by military courier. Monroe opened it in her office with Emily present. Inside were mission files, authorization forms, intel reports, everything related to the Syria operation. Monroe spread them across her desk, scanning each page. Then she stopped. Here. Emily leaned in. The document was a mission authorization form. At the bottom, a signature. Senator James Corrigan, Chairman, Senate Armed Services Committee. Monroe's voice was quiet. He signed it. He authorized the mission. He knew where you were going. And when it went wrong, he covered it up. Emily stared at the signature, at the proof, at the thing that would finally bring Corrigan down. What happens now? Now we move fast, before Corrigan realizes we have this. Monroe grabbed her phone. I'm calling the Attorney General. We're going to need federal prosecutors, grand jury, the works. How long? 2 weeks to assemble the case, maybe 3. Emily shook her head. Corrigan won't wait 2 weeks. He'll flee, or he'll find a way to destroy the evidence. Then we make sure he can't. Monroe looked at Emily. I need you to testify. In front of Congress, public hearing, live cameras. You tell them everything. You show them the evidence. You make it impossible for Corrigan to run. Emily's stomach dropped. When? 1 week. I'll arrange it. The hearing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Emily spent the days before preparing with Monroe's team, memorizing timelines, reviewing documents, practicing answers to hostile questions. The prosecutors warned her that Corrigan's allies in Congress would come after her hard. They'd question her credibility, her mental state, her motives. They'd try to paint her as a disgruntled veteran with an axe to grind. Let them, Emily said. I'm ready. On Tuesday morning, Emily walked into the Senate hearing room wearing a borrowed suit that didn't quite fit. The room was packed. Reporters, spectators, congressional staff. Cameras lined the back wall. Every major network was broadcasting live. Emily sat at the witness table, alone, facing a panel of 12 senators. Corrigan wasn't among them. He'd recused himself from the hearing, but his allies were there. Emily could see it in their faces. The chairman gavelled the hearing to order. Miss Harper, please state your name for the record. Emily Harper. Miss Harper, you've made serious allegations against Senator James Corrigan and several federal officials. This committee takes such allegations seriously. You'll be given the opportunity to present your evidence and testimony. But I want to remind you, you're under oath. Perjury is a federal crime. Do you understand? I understand. Then proceed. Emily took a breath, looked at the cameras, at the faces watching her, and she started talking. She told them about Syria, about the mission briefing, the bad intel, the ambush. She described the 8 bodies that came home in coffins. She explained how Stanton and Briggs had covered it up, how they'd hunted down the survivors, how they'd tried to silence her. She played the recordings. Stanton and Briggs, Corrigan and Stanton. She showed them the mission authorization with Corrigan's signature. She told them about the hospital, about Kyle, about the mercenaries, about the moment she'd realized the system was broken and the only way to fix it was to break it open herself. When she finished, the room was silent. Then the questions started. A senator from Corrigan's party leaned forward. Miss Harper, you claim to have evidence of a conspiracy, but isn't it true that you've been diagnosed with PTSD, that you've struggled with mental health issues since returning from Syria? Emily's jaw tightened. I was diagnosed with PTSD, yes. Most combat veterans are. That doesn't make me delusional. But it does raise questions about your perception of events, your ability to accurately recall details. My perception is backed by recordings, by documents, by physical evidence. This isn't a memory, it's fact. Another senator cut in. Miss Harper, you've admitted to killing 4 men at Silvergate Memorial Hospital. How do we know you're not simply trying to justify your actions by fabricating a conspiracy? Emily's voice stayed calm. I killed 4 men who were trying to murder a patient. I have witnesses. I have hospital footage. The men I killed were mercenaries hired by Stanton. That's not fabrication. That's documentation. The questions went on for 2 hours. Emily answered each one, her voice steady, her hands still. She didn't flinch, didn't waver. Finally, the chairman gavelled again. Miss Harper, this committee will review your testimony and the evidence you've provided. We'll reconvene in 1 week to issue our findings. You're dismissed. Emily stood, walked out of the hearing room, into the hallway where reporters were waiting. They swarmed her, shouting questions, shoving microphones in her face. Miss Harper, do you think Senator Corrigan will resign? Miss Harper, what do you say to people who call you a hero? Miss Harper, are you afraid for your life? Monroe appeared, pushing through the crowd. No comment. Miss Harper has no comment at this time. She grabbed Emily's arm and pulled her toward the exit. They made it outside into the sunlight, away from the chaos. Emily leaned against the building, breathing hard. You did good in there, Monroe said. It doesn't feel like enough. It is. Trust me. Monroe's phone rang. She answered, listened, her expression shifting. Say that again. Emily straightened. What? Monroe hung up, looked at Emily. Corrigan just resigned, 5 minutes ago, effective immediately. Emily's knees went weak. What? He released a statement. Says he's stepping down to focus on his health and family. No admission of guilt. No apology, just gone. Monroe smiled slightly. We won, Harper. He's finished. Emily stared at her. Then she started laughing. Not from joy, from exhaustion, from relief, from the sheer absurdity of it all. She'd done it. She'd brought down a senator, and she was still standing. The fallout took weeks. Corrigan was indicted on 12 federal charges. Briggs cut a deal, 20 years in exchange for testimony against Corrigan's network. 4 other officials were arrested. 2 more resigned. The Syria operation was officially declassified and investigated. Emily's unit was posthumously awarded honors. Their names were added to the memorial wall. Hayes woke up 3 weeks after the hearing. Emily visited him in the hospital. He looked thinner, older, but alive. You did it, he said quietly. We did it. Hayes smiled. Yeah, we did. Kyle Ruiz sent Emily a message through Sarah. Just 3 words. Thank you. I'm alive. Dr. Nolan Price was fired from Silvergate Memorial and lost his medical license after an investigation revealed multiple instances of negligence and misconduct. Emily didn't gloat. She just moved on. Rebecca Ortega won a journalism award for her coverage of the scandal. She called Emily the night she received it. This is your win, too. Keep the trophy. I'm good. 6 months after the hearing, Emily stood in a military office in Washington, D.C., talking to a general with more stars than Emily could count. We'd like to offer you a position, the general said. Special advisory. You'd be working with medical teams in conflict zones, training them, preparing them for situations where the system breaks down and they have to keep people alive anyway. Emily looked at the offer letter. Why me? Because you've been there. You know what happens when leadership fails and soldiers have to make impossible choices. That's not something you can teach in a classroom. Emily thought about the hospital, about Syria, about every moment she'd been told to stay quiet. I'll do it, but I have conditions. Name them. If I see corruption, I report it. If I see someone being silenced, I speak up. If the system breaks, I fix it. And if anyone tries to stop me, I fight back. Emily met the general's eyes. I'm not interested in being part of another cover-up. The general smiled. That's exactly why we want you. Emily signed the papers. But 1 year later, Emily Harper stood in a military transport plane, surrounded by young medics heading into a conflict zone. The kid next to her, couldn't have been older than 22, gripped his seat, his face pale. First deployment? Emily asked. He nodded. You'll be fine. Just remember your training. Trust your team. And if something goes wrong, don't freeze. Act. The kid looked at her. You're the one from the hospital, from the hearings. Yeah. They said you took down a senator. Emily smiled slightly. I just told the truth. The truth did the rest. Weren't you scared? Terrified. Still am sometimes. But you did it anyway. Yeah, because staying quiet would have been worse. Emily looked out the window at the landscape below. You're going to see things out there that scare you, things that make you question everything. People are going to tell you to follow orders, to not make waves, to stay in your lane. And most of the time, they'll be right. But sometimes, Emily's voice was steady. Sometimes you have to decide that doing what's right is more important than doing what's easy. The plane touched down. Emily stood, grabbed her gear. The kid called after her. Harper? She turned. Thanks. Emily nodded. Then she walked down the ramp into the heat, into the mission. Because that's what you did when the world tried to break you. You kept going. You kept fighting. You refused to be erased. Emily Harper had been dismissed, underestimated, silenced. She'd been called reckless, unstable, dangerous. And maybe she was all those things, but she was also the reason Corrigan was in prison. The reason Briggs would never hurt anyone again. The reason her unit's deaths weren't just covered up and forgotten. She was proof that the quiet ones, the overlooked ones, the ones people dismissed as weak, they could bring down empires when they finally stopped apologizing for taking up space. She walked across the base, past soldiers preparing for operations, past medics setting up field hospitals. She checked in with the commanding officer, got her assignment, grabbed her medical kit. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear gunfire, faint, sporadic, a reminder that this place was dangerous, that people were going to get hurt, that her skills would be tested again. Emily wasn't afraid. She'd already survived the worst thing that could happen to her. She'd lost her team, been hunted by her own government, fought her way through a system designed to crush her. And she'd won, not because she was the strongest or the smartest or the bravest, but because she'd refused to give up, because she'd refused to let fear make her small. Because when the moment came to choose between safety and truth, she'd chosen truth, every single time. Emily looked up at the sky, at the sun burning overhead, at the endless stretch of desert in every direction. She thought about the kid on the plane, about Kyle, about Hayes, about everyone who'd been silenced because speaking up was too dangerous. And she made herself a promise. She would never be silent again, not when lives were at stake, not when the truth needed telling, not when someone tried to make her believe that being quiet was safer than being heard. Because the world didn't change when people stayed comfortable. It changed when someone finally got angry enough, brave enough, or desperate enough to stand up and say, "This is wrong, and I'm going to do something about it." Emily Harper had been that person once, and she would be that person again, and again and again, for as long as it took. For as long as there were people who needed someone to fight for them when they couldn't fight for themselves. She walked towards the medical tent, ready to work, ready to save lives, ready for whatever came next. Behind her, the sun climbed higher. Ahead of her, the mission waited. And somewhere in between, Emily Harper, nurse, soldier, whistleblower, survivor, finally understood what it meant to be free. Not free from danger, not free from fear, but free from the lie that staying small kept you safe. Free from the belief that silence was survival. Free to be exactly who she was. Flawed, angry, relentless, and absolutely done apologizing for it. She disappeared into the tent. The story continued, but this time she was writing it herself.